What's up, guys? We're back with another episode of the Yankees Farm Report. Today, as you can see, I got a full squad. I got Marcus, Nick, bro. How you guys doing today?
Good.
What's going
Thanks for
on?
having me.
Doing great.
Good. Just wanted to say what's up to a few people in the chat. I got Diver, Tina. I don't know who else is here. Just want to thank you guys for tuning in as always. I just want to go over, some of the stuff that we saw during the first week of spring training. And I'm going to start with you, Marcus. Is anybody that stood out to you from what you saw in week one?
All right. So something I saw that I liked, and this is going back to the first time I saw Alexander Vargas, I was immediately disappointed. And from what I heard about him, I thought this is not a prospect. I think he looks different.
Mhm.
And I think I like the swings that I've seen him take so far. And the athleticism is there. So if he is progressing, if he's taking a step forward, starting to get, it's really easy to get hopeful, easy to be optimistic this early. I'm looking for reasons to be optimistic. And I like what I've seen in a very small sample from him so far. Cold
Yeah,
side plate swing looks better.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. But I mean, Nick and I have spoken about it extensively. We had him on the show a couple of weeks back. And he definitely looked better in the second half of the season when he was a starter as the shortstop. You could see that he had his confidence was back.
Yeah, and lofty expectations, man. He has big goals for this year. So
Yeah, he told me a couple of years ago when I did an interview with him that he thought he was a five-tool player. So it's possible that may be coming around. I'd really like to see that happen for him.
John.
I was going to say Alexander Vargas, but thank you for taking that from me, Marcus. And then I was going to say Jeff Gilbert. And, all things considered, I think Jeff Gilbert looked really good, especially considering the fact that he's returning from Tommy John, or what I understand, some sort of elbow surgery. He looked really good in that appearance that I saw him on, I want to say Saturday? It's Friday or Saturday, I forget which. All the days blur when you're there and you're doing the same thing over and over again. In spring training, all the reporters were telling me the same thing. But Gilbert looked good. It looks like he threw a third of an inning, gave up one hit. I don't know exactly what it was. I'm just looking at the box score here. One hit, one run earned, two walks. That puts him at a 6.75 ERA. I mean, at the same time, you're looking at an inning and a third of stats, but I liked what he did. I'd like to see a little bit more of Spencer Jones because that's kind of what everybody wants to see, of course. I'm really intrigued to see what that new swing does for him.
Regarding Gilbert, I did like him. I know he missed most of the last season. I think he only pitched maybe 5 innings. But he's definitely a guy that I really liked. I liked the previous season. I remember him coming into a game. It might have been in the playoffs. Maybe you might remember Brophy. And I think he struck out the side. He came in bases loaded and he ended up striking out the side.
Yeah, it's something like that. I've really always liked his stuff. Just kind of from the beginning, like ever since he was in FCL, he really stood out to me.
Nick?
I want to see what Eric did.
I got two. I got two off the top of my head, man. I'll start with the one. I mean, obviously Vargas was up there too, but I'll go with I'll start Will Warren, man. I felt like Will Warren looked super impressive in his start. He absolutely killed it. I mean, changeup looked like a whole different pitch. He was throwing a 2-seamer, 4-seamer, cutter. He had everything working. He looked really, really good. And then I'll even say Oswald Peraza, man. I feel like Peraza, he looks more a little bit more disciplined at the plate. And he also, I mean, he was making plays in the field that looked really good and smooth at third base. And I feel like that was the question mark is he going to have that confidence to go out there and play and kind of take it off? In the first game, he did pretty good. And I think the second game, he made some defensive plays, didn't hit, but he still made plays with his glove.
I was just thinking of a second player that really impressed me, and that's George Lombard, especially with that jump throw that he had at third base the other day. That really showed off his arm. I'm looking to see if his defense is better just because of how many errors he had last year. And that has me really concerned, but obviously early sample size. We'll see what happens.
With the Peraza thing, you're thinking the Yankees don't have a third baseman, and it's frustrating. And then you watch Peraza and you start to think, again, you're looking for optimism and hope. this could work if we have Peraza and Cabrera, and you start to believe that could form a good third baseman, or at least a league average one. So I agree with Nick on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Peraza. I've always been a fan of his. For him, I think it's just a matter of getting an opportunity, and it's scarce for him nowadays, right? Or it has been. He's typically been a slow starter, which didn't help him the year that the shortstop competition was opened, and it was just unfortunate. For me, the guys that have stood out, you already took him, was Alexander Vargas. I was going to mention Will Warren as well. Another guy I did want to mention was Sean Boyle. We haven't really seen much of him last season. Might have been in and out because of injuries, but he was a guy that rose pretty quickly, and then an injury just derailed him for, I think, the next season, maybe season and change. And I wanted to mention Roderick Arias today. He had 2 hits. One was a double. He's got 3 hits in the early spring training. I've always been a fan of Roderick, but those are 2 guys. Another guy I did want to mention was Jesus Rodriguez. He had 2 hits. He has 2 hits in this spring, and I think both of them came after he came off the bench. What's up, Tim? By the way.
And I want to say, as far as Boyle is concerned, the Yankees have been putting Boyle out there, or had been, when they were doing their live BP. They were using him a lot more than any of the other prospects. So they seem to be a little bit higher on him. Like, that's kind of the way that I look at it. If you're putting a prospect out there for live BP or for whatever, and you're using him more often, then to me that seems like they're a little bit higher on him than maybe another pitcher, or they want to use him as something to get the scouts' eyes on.
Rosselman was impressive too, man, in that one inning.
Yep.
He needed to lock it in mechanically, but once he did, it looked really good.
Absolutely.
Same thing with Schlittler. Once he locked it in,
oh yeah, he looked really good.
Good looking stuff.
Yeah, I love the way he got out of that little jam he was in, striking out the batter in that, was it the 5th inning? I think it was.
Yeah.
Spencer Jones today, I think he hit a double, so it's now a double and a home run on the season. Good to see that from him. I think he might have had a strikeout in today's game. Another guy I did want to mention was Brendan Jones. Brendan Jones got a hit, 2 walks and a stolen base. He's also looked good. Everson Pereira today homered. I don't know if he got a second hit. That might have been Roderick when I was looking at the box scores. The game wasn't televised today. I think Ben Rice had another 2 hits today as well. Who else did I see? Michael Arias looked good in his 1 inning of work. I don't know if you guys got to take a look at him.
Loud stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Explosive fastball.
His mechanics, when I was watching him at live BP the other day, his mechanics seem a little clunky, but I mean, whatever works,
He's a converted position player, right? Or do I have the wrong guy?
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
Got a question here. Who do you think will make it to the big leagues first, Alexander Vargas or Roderick Arias? I mean, I don't think that's a fair question.
Yeah, at all. That's not fair at all. I mean, it's gonna be. It should be Alexander Vargas, right?
Yeah.
Because he's already a AA.
Right.
But I mean, it depends, because if Roger comes out the gate swinging and hitting 400 and moves up to AA real quick, nobody's gonna hold him back. So
you anticipate Vargas being the shortstop at Somerset again this year?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I think he goes back there, and I'm hoping that what we saw from him last year was him unlocking, him feeling a lot more confidence, and he keeps rolling right along.
Yeah. Unfortunately, both those guys will start the season, if nothing changes, in garbage weather, so it might be a while before we get to evaluate what they're doing offensively.
Well, then you'd also have to keep in mind that Roderick would be playing in cold weather for the first time, probably in his career.
Right.
So that'll be a big deal.
Yeah.
And Vargas would have had that adjustment period, at least from last year.
Good point.
Kevin Stevens was another guy who pitched an inning of work with a strikeout. And he's a guy that I'm keeping an eye on. I really loved what he did at Somerset last year. I don't know if you guys got to see him. Yoendrys Gomez pitched a clean inning. Who else?
I think with Steven, the fact that they have him as an NRI, I think shows a little bit more confidence than maybe another pitcher at the same level.
I think it could also be the fact that I think he's 27, I want to say. So he's a little bit older. Definitely expect him at Scranton this year.
And how about, is the door opening a little wider for Gomez here with Efros getting hurt today? there's a lot of names down there, but each guy who gets dinged up a little bit, then Gomez gets an opportunity a little greater than it was the day before.
I think Efros still had options, so I don't necessarily know if he would have been the one to block him out.
That's what I'm just going to look at.
I think you're right about that.
So yeah, I think it's Yoendrys Gomez, man. I mean, to be fair, I like Yoendrys Gomez, man. He just wasn't able to stay healthy for a while. I mean, the stuff definitely plays either which way, and he's looked good in the majors when he had a shot, except for one outing where he went 3 innings or something and got hit up in the last inning. But he's looked pretty good for the most part. I'd like to see him get a shot with the Yankees.
Yeah, Efros has 2 options left.
And without knowing anything, I would guess they want Efros to make the team, after to have some kind of return on the trade that they made for him. And the poor guy keeps getting hurt, but I would think this sets him back.
Yeah, and Yoendrys doesn't have any options, so that's going to be a big decision on their part, whether he makes the team or not, I think.
Right.
That's the same thing with Peraza, right? I think he's out of options, right? He has to make the team.
Same.
So if you, well, it's only been in 1 week, but I mean, I think that as of right now, it could be a race for that next man up spot between, hopefully Will Warren and Yoendrys Gomez getting that shot as well, a legitimate shot.
I don't really feel like they're gonna want to put Will Warren out there, man. I feel like they're gonna want to keep him stretched out in AAA, just to make sure, if anything happens.
Yeah, because last year he'd pitch a good game like that, and the next time out he'd give up 4 runs in 1 inning. You never know. It's one of those life is like a box of chocolates kind of situation.
To be fair, in that Angels start where he got shelled, I feel like that inning, that umpire, man, really screwed him big time, because he had a couple pitches that were on the plate and they were called balls. And with the new ABS system, he probably would have got out of that stuff. So,
well, I was just thinking the same thing, because ABS has saved a lot of situations the past couple games. Like over the weekend when I was there, there was, I think, 1 or 2 that were overturned. Most of them were upheld, but it showed the fans, kind of where the strike zone was.
How was that? I mean, you down on the field. How did you see that, the ABS system?
So the vibe that I got with the other photographers in the camera well were like, wow, this is taking too long, because they had to go and show the animation, and then they had to do the call. And I'm thinking to myself, they got to do the Florida State thing. It's the longest thing that it is the umpire fumbling with his earbud, trying to shove it in his ear, because he keeps the earbud out of his ear because it's so hot and sweaty in Florida. So put the earbud in, get the call. This is what it is. Play game.
100%. I've seen it at AAA. Yeah. It's seamless. It does not interrupt the game at all.
But that animation BS we need to get rid of that. I understand what it is, but at the same time, if you want to see where the pitch is, go into Baseball Savant, look it up. It's there.
That's a lot of effort for fans.
Hey, that's not my problem.
You talk about that next man up. What about our new guy, Hedrick, who also looked good when he got in? He's I think a starter in his past. I'm not sure if they're going to deploy him that way out of the chute, or if he becomes a potential bullpen arm. But I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Brophy, man. I mean, based on what he's asking too, what about Vreeling and Messenger? Have you seen or heard anything from either one of those guys?
I haven't heard.
Yesterday, no.
Who?
Messenger.
There was the game was rained out yesterday.
I know, but he was supposed to go.
I understand. So actually, you know what? While we're thinking of that, let me see what the roster was, because I was just looking at the roster for today and who was supposed to go.
I'm pretty sure he was on the roster for yesterday.
Because even Ben Shields, I haven't really seen much of anything on any of those guys, and that's really your AAA depth right there, So I'm kind of curious if you're just going to back up Will Warren with Carlos Carrasco and hope that those two play out with Marcus Stroman screaming at everybody.
So they had yesterday Carrasco, Yeri De Los Santos, Jackson Fristow, Sebastian Keane, Matt Keating, Tyler Matzik, Zach Messenger, Mason Vineyard, Colby White, and Alan Winans. And some of those guys threw today because of the rain out, which I think that was kind of expected. That was kind of like their plan B. Let me see for today.
Well, they ran the same roster, didn't they? Pretty much.
No, they had a different one. So today they had Chris Bowe, Carlos Carrasco, De Los Santos, Scott Efros, Jeff Gilbert, Gus Hughes, Eric Leal, Tyler Matzik, Luis Pacheco, Baron Stewart, and Alan Winans.
Gotcha.
So there's a couple of those names, like Luis Pacheco. I'm really excited to see what he does this year. He really, really impressed me last year, especially making that jump from, I think he went straight to AA from Tampa.
He did.
Yeah. So, and then the fact that he did well for the couple starts that he, or the couple appearances that he had as a reliever were very impressive in AA.
He was out of baseball for a couple of years, wasn't he? Or was he pitching?
He
like
was, if I remember correctly, he was pitching somewhere in Mexico. And then in the Venezuelan, like MLB equivalent of Venezuela.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else stand out to you guys?
That lefty, man. I'm on two lefties, man, and the same thing. I don't know if they're gonna go two lefties though. I feel like there's so many strong right-handers. I don't know if there's an open spot for another lefty.
I kind of agree with that comment though. If Matzik pitches well, I think he's making the team, because that's a guy with some track record as being really effective, and he's a different look than Hill gives you.
Yeah.
If Hedrick makes the team, it's because I think these injuries pile up, but I think he's a long man to start with, unless these 94s and 95s mean he's something else. But
well, and Hedrick has one option, so he could be a taxi squad guy if they needed it.
I'm just wondering if this is a guy who they think he's a starter, and therefore he's kind of ticketed for AAA, or if this is a guy whose arm they really like and they're going to use him in short stints out of the chute. That remains to be seen, I suppose.
Yeah, his stats last year in the minor leagues look good. 10.71 K through 9, 3.26 walks through 9. So I mean, you can't really complain about that kind of numbers, but does that translate to the major leagues? Yeah,
and his first outing here, it looks like there's a velo jump. So I think I heard he was pitching at 90-91 last year, and he comes out 94-95. That's interesting.
I mean, is Brewbreaker going to make the team? He's out of hurt too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Well, he got hurt the other day with a flying bat at the leg.
I thought he got hit. Wasn't it him that got hit with a line in the back?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? I thought because he was crouched down looking at his leg, so I thought that's what it was. But
I think
liner in the back.
I think Aaron Boone said that Brewbreaker might have tweaked something trying to avoid the ball, so he got hit, and it sounds like he might have hurt something trying to get out of the way too. I
feel bad for that guy. He's been, man. You know, I saw him in Tampa, and I'm like, all right, you know, this might be something, and then he got hurt, and I feel bad for him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at this roster here, man. I'm in terms of just relief pitchers. I mean, Matzik. I mean, even so, you're trying to say pick two lefties. I mean, but where is he going to play? You have Devin Williams, Luke Weaver. You're only going to keep 8 of these guys. You got Loizaga start on there. I understand that's off. So you have Bark Leiter. He's going to be on the team, I'm assuming. Tim Hill, Ian Hamilton. You got Fernando Cruz, Jake Cousins. I mean.
Cousins is down now too,
but I mean, there's a lot of guys still here that you have Clayton Beater, you know, I mean, that's another one that I know the Yankees like. So, Yeri De Los Santos, I heard some good things about De Los Santos too. I mean, they protected him early.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd do Yeri over Cruz, because if I remember correctly, Cruz got lit up the other day.
He did.
It's all about that splitter. They'll give him a shot though, because you aren't going to trade Trevino and then not give this guy a shot. That's just not the Yankees way.
Well, if they haven't gotten rid of DJ yet, I agree with that.
For those that didn't see, you probably already did. Chase Hampton is out for the year. I think he's scheduled for Tommy John if it hasn't happened already. It's a damn shame, man. I was really hoping to see a big step forward for him this year and a bounce back.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. And obviously, this is the scary part about spring training, is who's going to make it through it. So you're already down Chase Hampton. Thatcher Hurd has already had Tommy John surgery. So
Henry Lalani has got shoulder surgery.
Oh, he did?
I don't know if we were supposed to say that one, but my fault, Carlos. But
we're talking about it's a no 2025 type of surgery there, or do you not want to talk about it anymore?
Nah, you should see him. Okay. I would put it at June, hopefully.
Okay.
So he'll probably start in
OZL
Tampa then.
OZL getting released too hurt my heart, man. That hurt my heart.
Yeah, I didn't get
I
that at all.
was-
I'm sure that has to be politics because to me, and I was talking about this with Brophy earlier. He was arguably the most consistent and best pitcher at Tampa last year. It didn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me. I spoke to him briefly the day of, and he told me, I came in back to Tampa ready to surprise the Yankees, letting them know that my velo was now getting up to 99, and they
Mhm.
surprised me with something else.
Yeah, and I was going back and forth with him when he told me. He's like, "Bro, I want to make sure you're the first one that knows that you've been the one you've taken care of me, getting me photos and video and all this since he's been in Tampa." And I told him, I knew something was up when they kept your career in Tampa. They didn't let you advance past Tampa, even though you showed that you could have been in Double-A by now, and you should have been. He should have been in Double-A. There's no reason that he shouldn't have been. Especially with the way that the slider was moving and the velo kept going up and up over the years. But I think the fact that, as I had reported on my previous Twitter account, and I will have my Twitter account redone again. But on my previous Twitter account, I said in 22 that him and Liam Mendez were. Now I'm going to mention the names now that they're not with the Yankees anymore. That they had both mentioned to me that the Yankees were making them throw with bone spurs in their elbows and throwing bullpens, and you got to throw your full velo and you got to throw your full sets. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. And and ultimately what I believe is why Liam Mendez was released, because I think he asked his agent to be released so that he could play somewhere else. And last I knew, he was with the Blue Jays. But OCL fought through it. He got some, I guess, some kind of work done where to try to get rid of the little bits of bone fragments in his elbow. Did a little bit of rehab. It was kind of hush hush, from what I understand in that regard. But he obviously he's back being 100% again, and he's throwing what he throws. But I agree, there's a little bit of politics there, and part of it is that the guys don't understand you need to keep quiet for some things, and then you need to be really, really vocal with other things.
See, that's really surprising, because what's the upside of making a guy throw?
I don't know.
If he's hurt, is there a communication problem, do you think?
That's got to be the only thing I can think of, because as another example, when Kevin Alcantara got traded to the Cubs for Rizzo, he messaged me first, "Bro, I got traded to the Cubs. What do I do?" And I told him, "You need to talk to somebody on the Yankees, because I don't get paid for that. I don't know what their process is. I don't know how you fly to Arizona. I don't know what that works."
Wow.
I mean, listen, man, we all heard stories about international dudes getting treated like. I mean, listen, you gave, if I'm not mistaken, Ozziel Rodriguez is the highest paid pitcher the Yankees have ever had, outside of
$2 million, yeah.
Now he got 600K.
Whoa.
It wasn't that much. It was only 600K. But the difference is,
there's a thing that happened with that, yeah.
So, I mean, the only other guy that I could think that was going to get more than him was Kevin DeFrank this year. He was supposed to get $1 million, and then that ended up falling apart. Long story there. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he never even got a shot to really pitch for the Yankees like that. So, I don't know if there's some, like we've talked about, an international bias or what it is, or just don't want to talk about it. But to go back to your injury thing, I mean, we've seen that with outfielders, man. The Yankees trying to throw them, 30, 98-mile-an-hour fastballs from right field to third base and hurting shoulders for young kids. Fidel Montero comes to mind.
Yep.
So, I mean, we've seen this. It's not like something new. I just don't understand why they don't try to prioritize development in terms of making sure the player is healthy, but also playing through being hurt, but not being injured, So everybody's hurt. But
yeah. I think, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it maybe you guys know. I certainly don't understand it. And if anybody in the chat understands or knows, please do let me know. I've seen some pitchers, mostly IFA guys, doing this thing where they take a running 3-4 hop and then throw. What the hell is the point of that?
So, and I don't want to mess his name up, but the drive line guy, is it Kyle Bodie?
Bodie, I understand.
So if I read a little bit from him in a book, and that max training, where his thought is, it's not to baby your arm, it's to max it out and throw as hard as you can and train that way. And I know I'm oversimplifying this. I don't want to make it seem like it's crazy, but I think maybe that's part of the thing behind it. That's what you're talking about, the crow hop and fire it into a stream type thing. Like that max velo training. Certainly different schools of thought on that, but I think that's more of a modern technique. It's just odd though. The pieces don't fit where we draft people and we don't let them pitch because we're gonna put them into the weight room and let them decompress from the season and not put any more innings on their arm. And yet hearing stories like this where we're gonna make guys throw hurt, that doesn't seem to fit.
Well, and you have to look at the way that I look at it, and this has been a thing that Lewis and I have gone back and forth on. Look at the way that they treat, and I don't know if it's just the Yankees or if it's all teams, because obviously I focus on the Yankees, but I look at some other teams as well. How do they treat American prospects versus Latin prospects? They're kind of almost night and day in a way. You know, they don't promote them necessarily as often as an American kid, and I don't know if that's because the American kids have more experience with organized baseball games. That's kind of what I suspect it is, because you'll hear, and this was especially the case with Jasson Dominguez, Latin kids when they come to the States, they're considered raw talent because they're not as developed with Little League baseball and high school baseball and college baseball, etc. They just have the academies that, you know, they're in the academies until they're 16 when they're drafted, or 15 or whatever. But they don't really get into organized baseball until they hit the Dominican Summer League, from what I understand.
And if you're one of the top IFA kid, you're pretty much stashed away. I think the only one that I could think of over the last few years that I've seen actually play any organized baseball is Wandy Asijan. He's the only one that I've seen play in like those WSBC tournaments.
Yeah, no, I mean it's when it comes to that, I mean, I've talked to the person who says that it's a different brand of ball, right? So like you're gonna be in more tournaments, like Carlos is saying, you're gonna be playing with more organized ball. But the kids in Latin America are gonna be, you know, they take more at bats, so they see more pitchers, they take more at bats. It's just not in competitive baseball, and everybody wants to be a flair for the dramatic down there, right? So you want to do everything, you know, look cool, make it cool instead of just trying to make the right play. And I feel like sometimes that might be where the Yankees are like, well, we don't do that here. You know, it's took forever for you to let them have a half an inch beard. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, somebody wants to look cool on a throw. Sometimes it's just not going to play as a New York Yankee here. Sorry, the IFA thing is not real.
Jason, I'm not sure what you mean by the IFA thing is not real.
And I don't know if that's necessarily true per se, because I think Jason would have started in DSL had the 2020 season up and canceled.
Well, a lot of players are starting in the DSL right now because of taxes too. Like a lot of people don't realize, but when you sign your signing bonus, you know, if you put them right in America, at the end of the day, they're going to get taxed based on American money too. So it doesn't make sense for them to get taxed on American dollar and Dominican dollar for that American dollar.
I think the roster limits are having something to do with it too.
That has to do with a lot of signings not going on.
Yeah.
So like we know of, me and Carlos know of like 7 or 8 dudes that still are supposed to be signed with the New York Yankees that haven't signed yet because of the roster constraints and where are they going to play. And a couple of them are shortstops, a couple of them are catchers. I mean, next year they have a ton of catchers that are coming in for 26. So and they already just signed a bunch this past year and the year prior too. So I mean, where are all these guys going to play is the question mark if you're not moving them fast.
Maybe I'm wrong about this, but isn't there a roster limit for the organization stateside? But if they're
I think that came in the new
if they
CBA.
don't count against that limit, or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, the limit is there's certain you can have so many kids stateside, so many kids in an organization, so many kids stateside, and then so many kids per level, except for the complex league. That's why you see a lot of players get stashed in the complex league because you can. That's your rehab kind of per se.
I wouldn't necessarily say that's true though. I mean, no bias. If a player can play, they promote him. I mean, to be fair, Oswald Peraza was killing AAA, and should have been promoted a long time ago. You could even said Estevan Florial should have been given a fair shot when he was a prospect. The kid should have gotten an opportunity. When I like to use the McDonald's situation for this, right? Like, you know, we have a young kid, we hire him, we grow him in there, and he's the best of the best, and he wants to move up to manager. And I say, you know what? I'm going to go hire from outside the organization and take it in. That's going to decrease somebody's confidence in there, and they're not going to want to work as hard. So all of a sudden, now you're bringing it down where somebody's like, well, I'm not going to continue to give my all when it's not being recognized.
Well, and Jason, the 2-loss rookie league teams, there's going to be more changes going on in the next. I don't know if there's necessarily a window per se, from what I understand, but at least the next decade, they're supposed to get rid of 2 to 3 more levels. So essentially, they're getting rid of, say, like in the Yankees case, Hudson Valley and Scranton, and they were just going to have Tampa and, I should say, it'd be like getting rid of high A and double A. So it'd be Hudson Valley and Somerset. You're going to have Tampa and Scranton, which seems odd because then you're going to have so many more roster constraints. And that's just part of MLB trying to downsize and reduce financial obligations to the organizations.
It's only going to affect the product on the field.
Yeah.
That's all MLB does, though, is shoot themselves in the foot. That's the only
Yeah.
thing they can aim at is their own feet.
It's all about money. It's not about putting a good product on the field. It's really what it comes down to. And that's just how Manfred runs his organization.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree here with Donnie. I mean, Jasson needs to get 500 at bats. You got to keep putting him out there every single day. He's been your number one prospect for the last 2 seasons. He's been the top prospect for the last 3-4 years. You're at a point where Dominguez has to progress. It has to show something.
Yeah, and I already disagree with how Boone already put it out there, man. He should have really started him in center field. This shouldn't even be a question, man. That's doing the wrong thing there.
I just that. So it's interesting that you would think that they prioritize center field defense unless you have Juan Soto on the team. Then we're okay with Aaron Judge in center field because we want those 2 bats obviously in the lineup. I don't think they think Dominguez is a good center fielder, and I think the route trouble that he's had in left field was also present in center field. So I think we're going to see it. He's going to have a tough time here and there in left field, but I agree that you got to let him go and let him improve. Got to develop him at this level because I don't think you send him back down.
Yeah, that was going to be the next topic was Jasson's defense. But before we hop into that, I mean, like I said, you're at a point where Jasson has to play every single day, regardless. You have to trot him out there, punch him into the lineup every single day. You just have to at this point. Regarding the play that happened, what was it, yesterday or the day before? Sorry, he lost the ball in the sun.
Yep.
It's not like he dropped it. He lost the ball in the sun. That's gonna happen. So to me, it's not exactly what you want to see. But those are the kinks that you need to work out in spring training. And that's why you need to keep putting him out there every single day. Yeah,
and people are going to react to it because there's already that question about his defense that when something like that happens, people are going to get upset about it. But, that play in the gap to me was more of a concern and it might have been the same thing where he didn't read it well because of the sun, tough sun field. But we have seen that in the minors that his route running is questionable. So, and that's just something that's going to have to improve.
And something that I don't think most fans understand because they've never been in the field is that with the way that the sun angle hits Steinbrenner Field, because the sun rises from the outfield, that sun reflects off of the seats. So if you don't have butts and seats, which I would imagine that they would have, if you don't have butts and seats, you're just going to get a big mirror in your eyes, basically, and you're not going to see anything. So I have a couple photos from Saturday and Sunday where they were from just Sunday because Saturday there was no game. So Sunday I have a couple photos of Jasson Dominguez and Anthony Volpe shading like this, the sun. They're just standing there. There's not even a play coming. Like they have the hats on, they have the sunglasses on, and they're just trying to shade their eyes from the sun. So the sun's pretty brutal. I'm every day that I'm out there, I'm getting more and more sunburnt.
Look, Anthony Volpe hasn't looked that great defensively in this week either, man. I mean, I saw him botch a couple of plays, man, that he usually makes too. So, I mean, I didn't hear nobody say anything about Anthony Volpe, though.
Yeah.
And bro, did you show? I think you sent me a picture, bro. Volpe had a similar issue.
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone and show it on here, then I will, but I don't know how well that's going to work.
Jasson needs to be in the lineup every single day. That's to me that you're going to get no pushback on that. I've been saying that for the longest.
Plus, talk about having people in the seats. You got all us pasty Northeasterners coming down there to watch games. Doesn't really help if we're the people sitting there.
Still better than reflection, though.
Should the
I
Yankees
like
come
this
over
question.
twins? What do you think?
What do I think? Listen, I personally think Everson Pereira should get an opportunity, man. I mean, he had supposedly hit a bomb today,
Yeah.
but I don't think he's going to get an opportunity because I think it would be Ben Rice that they give that batting opportunity to, especially putting on 10 pounds of muscle. And he's hit good. So that's another guy we haven't talked about, but he's hit pretty good from what everything I've seen so far. So, that's a tough one. I actually kind of hope Ben Rice wins the backup catcher position at this point.
I mean, I don't think you can pencil Jones in just yet. You got to go with Everson. Everson's already on the 40-man. You still have Grisham somewhere on the roster, so I don't think you could just push Jones up into the major league roster, put him on the 40-man just yet. The Yankees aren't going to do that.
No, he's got to play every day. If he comes up, he's got to play every day.
I think Pereira's issues. I mean, just a couple of at-bats in spring training, but it's the Everson Pereira experience. Some swing and miss in the zone, but then when he squares it up, it's damage. And
it'll come in bunches. It'll come in bunches.
Yeah.
And that's why I've always said that Pereira, to me, is not really the kind of guy that you make a fourth or fifth outfielder because he needs those at-bats.
I don't know if you can see this, but
yeah, that
was Volpe the other day. So he didn't have his sunglasses on. And then later on, I got a photo of him with his sunglasses on. So maybe he learned his lesson in that regard. But yeah, it's not fun out there. There we go. So it's.
But it's different needs for Rafael Flores over Spencer Jones. I mean, you also have to compare Rafael Flores to Paul Goldschmidt and Ben Rice right now, who would be above Rafael Flores. I mean, the Yankees technically have an open outfield spot if Giancarlo Stanton goes down. The question is, do you want to move? If Dominguez really isn't playing good defense, can he still DH? Probably. So, I mean, I wouldn't do that, but I'm just saying you could.
So my go ahead, Los.
No, you have to put him out there because what happens when Stanton comes back?
Yeah.
What happens if he doesn't? But what happens if he doesn't? I mean, these subliminal messages are blowing my mind.
We'll cross that. We'll get to that when we cross that bridge when we get to it. I think you still have to push him out there every single day.
So I was going to say, I'm kind of curious if theoretically you were to have that extra spot in the outfield. Jesus Rodriguez is on the 40-man. I'm curious if they'd try to push him and I know it's a big ask for someone like him, especially since he's had limited time in AA and he hasn't spent any time in AAA. I'm really curious if they would do that. I don't know what they've seen in him from spring training, analytically speaking, because they have all that stuff on field one that they can pull all the analytics from.
Well, what's interesting is putting him on the 40-man roster. It's to protect him from the Rule 5. So if they thought that he might get popped by a major league team, which means he's on the roster in spring training, then they must think that he's a guy who could be a fast track.
Well, and the fact that he's kind of super utility too. I think he plays every position except for pitcher and second base.
Yeah.
So
like for a rebuilding team, they could stash a guy like that if they want.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll let you guys answer this question from Donnie. Is Spencer Jones untouchable?
No.
No. And
Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, man. All right. So I have my list of untouchable players, man, but I have different reasons for things being considered untouchable. So for me personally, the players I have as untouchable right now are Dominguez, Roderick, Lombard, and I had Chase Hampton as untouchable too, man, just because I think that arm is unreal. But I put a hard one on Spencer Jones because the talent for him and his ceiling is so ridiculous if it all hits that it's like, do we want to trade this and be the reason that we screwed up on a potential Hall of Fame guy if everything goes the right way? If he can get his strikeout rate down to 28%, that looks real bad if you're a New York Yankee and you really miss on something like that. There's certain things where I believe that you just screw up on and you miss out on. Like Brandon Maya is another one, man. Like if an international dude signs somebody for $4 million plus, the way that it's been explained to me is if I give you more than $3.5 million, I think you are going to be a perennial all-star player. So why, if I trust my scouts good enough, Why am I going to say, okay, I'll sign that kid and let me trade him for a reliever? It doesn't happen. I'm not going to do something like that for those reasons. And I feel like for Spencer Jones, a first round pick, I just can't do it, man. So technically, in the sense of, do I think he's untouchable? It depends at what you're giving me. Because if you turned around and told me I can get Fernando Tatis and you're going to pay him, then yeah, I'll take it. Or Bobby Witt, yeah, I'm going to take that. But like, you're not giving me that for that. So the answer is, for what I think you can get him for, I would say yes, he is untouchable.
Well, and that's kind of go ahead, Marcus.
Oh no, it feels like the industry is down on Spencer Jones until he proves otherwise.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I wouldn't trade him because I think his value is low. Now, if we check back in June, I hope that that's a different story. But I really don't know. I think any trade discussion that you have with the Yankees now starts with George Lombard. And in that regard, in my mind, I don't think they have anybody who's untouchable. I don't really think they have a lot of guys who people are clamoring to get.
I was going to say, I think kind of like what you're mentioning, Nick, is with the trade of Anthony Rizzo and Kevin Alcantara, and I think they get rid of Alexander Vizcaíno, if I remember correctly, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at how Alcantara is doing with the Cubs system, and I understand that they have a loaded outfield prospect group, so realistically, he had no place to play. And then that throws a bunch of different questions. They had Spencer Jones. Was he on the mind when they drafted him? Because I think that he got drafted after Alcantara left, something like that. So, yeah, because that was in 2022. So maybe they had their eyes on him already. Now, as much as I love Anthony Rizzo, I wonder if his performance is underwhelming enough, kind of like what you mentioned, to kind of almost consider to have kept Kevin Alcantara as far as his performance.
But
Because
see,
he's super fast, but his bat is really
Alcantara
good.
is different, man. I get where you're coming from. So when the Yankees signed Kevin Alcantara, what I was told is that they had an evaluation of a 70 grade athlete on him, where he just was a ridiculous all-out athlete. They didn't give him a crazy amount. They gave him $1 million, which is a lot, but it's not a crazy amount in terms of like saying this guy was top 3 in his class or something, like for next year Wandy, or what Roderick was, or how they viewed players like Jasson Dominguez and stuff. Spencer Jones was a first round pick that the Yankees feel has that same kind of ability of a left-handed Aaron Judge. That's what they felt like they were getting. That's why they went and drafted him so high and valued that. It's a little bit different because I don't think that they feel as if Alcantara had the same power that they do Spencer Jones has. And that's the difference there. I personally would have given up Everson Pereira in that trade if I could have given that up on that way, because I really like Alcantara and I feel like he would have been great for the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
And I even, the people I talk to still wish that the Yankees can go and get him right now from the Cubs. That's how much they like him. But at the end of the day, man, I think it's a different kind of situation. And Anthony Rizzo was he was good when he first got here. I think that injury really screwed him up. Concussions are a death sentence in baseball, it looks like now.
And the Yankees were pushing their chips in at the time, and Alcantara was far away. So it was easy to say, like, I love this kid and I wish we could keep him, but there's also a chance he doesn't become what we think he could be. He's still not there yet. I mean, he's right on the cusp, but Rizzo's played his whole Yankee career, signed 2 contracts with him since, and Alcantara's still not there. So you can get it from that standpoint, but I'm with you. I wish they had him back right now.
Yeah, but there's a difference. Like I look at like a Brando Mayer, right? Because they're kind of in the same position of where they were at the time. I'd actually consider Brando untouchable because of the sheer fact that I need to trust my team and my scouting development that you gave this kid $4.35 million and said, I think this kid is going to be a generational center fielder that can go pick it with anybody and he's going to hit. Now, me and Carlos know a lot of people are talking and are down on him, and I don't know how you ranked him at 28-30 when the kid had an ankle injury, still hit 280 plus. Yeah, the power wasn't there, but that ankle injury was on his plant foot. So if you're not going to have much power when it's on your plant foot, and at the end of the day, he's going to come back this year, and I think it's going to be really bad for Fangraphs, Baseball America, if he really breaks out this year, to have to go from 28 and bring him all the way back to the top 10, because it doesn't really look good when you're an evaluator to drop somebody that far down and then bring them back up in a year. It actually looks very bad. So
Yeah, and I have him ranked as 6th in the NYY Underground top 30, which, I mean, if you look at who I have as a top 5, I have Dominguez, Hampton, Roderick Arias, Lombard, and Ben Hess. Those are my top 5. So
That's fair.
Wanted to move on to another topic, which I posted about this 2 days ago, with Spencer Jones's batting stance and his mechanic. I don't know if you guys had got a chance to take a look at it. But to me, from what I saw of him in the championship series, which was in September, I think they were playing Binghamton, if I'm not mistaken. Bro, you could
yeah, it
check
was
me on that.
Binghamton.
And from what I saw in that home run swing, to me, it looks very similar. It's a slight toe tap, the leg lift, the bat path looked the same. I don't know if you guys got a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be internet swing coach. I do see a difference that he's down in his legs more here. And when I saw him in Binghamton in September, he was using that timing mechanism pre-pitch with his front foot off the ground, kind of like a Daniel LaRussa from Karate Kid type of thing. And it wasn't comfortable. It didn't look comfortable to him. To me, I look at those swings side by side, and it's just one swing, so I need to see a lot more to have a feel for what he's doing. But it does look like a more comfortable timing mechanism for him. And my question would be, when I saw him in Binghamton 2 years ago when he was up in the playoffs, he had that significant arm bar, which for a tall guy like that gives him a hole up and in or just up. So if he gets in his legs more, does that help cover that hole? That's what I'm interested to see. Can he get to that pitch that's up? Because for a guy like Judge, who's his swing coach, if you go online and listen to what he has to say, it's really interesting. Judge doesn't have a hole in his swing. So that's something to think about for a guy who's comparable in height. Can he close that hole? Because if so, I think you're going to see something here.
I disagree. I think Judge does have a hole, and we kind of and the Kansas City Royals exposed it last year. That changeup, that changeup down and away. He has shown he cannot hit it. I mean, I've watched Michael Wacha has abused him.
I wouldn't call that a swing hole, or rather than you're not picking that pitch up, and that's maybe one that you should leave alone.
But he hasn't hit anybody doing that. I mean, if you look at it, like if you watch him this year, if pitchers start throwing changeups on the outside corner, that's going to be a nightmare pitch for him. And that's the only question mark I have about Aaron Judge, because I know a lot of pitchers that are in the Yankee system right now, and we've even talked to a few that said, yeah, we like to throw him changeups on the outside corner because he can't hit them. So, I mean, and that's come from people that are in there that have said that person.
I would counter that by saying throw that pitch to anybody, because that's a pitcher's pitch. And so then, yeah, I'd try to get guys out like that too, because I think if you challenge him, he's proven he could get to the other stuff.
And I spoke to Spencer on the field on, I'm getting my days all mixed up again. I think it was Friday. Either Friday or Sunday, before one of the two games. Just briefly, it was unrecorded. It was kind of, shooting the what kind of thing. And it was, what's spring training like for you? What are you learning? Are you learning from certain guys? And he wouldn't get into specifics. It was a very Yankee-friendly answer, you might say. And it's the kind of the vibe that I got from him was that he's working with the coaches and that kind of thing, of course, but it almost made it sound as if he's working with Judge because of the height similarities. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see the swing change a little bit, because he doesn't hold his bat the same way he did when in his first at bat, because it used to be almost right over his head, and it's not like that anymore. It's a little bit more out like Judge is in a way. So I wonder if the Yankees are trying to get the mechanics similar, but they're just trying to flip it to the other side of the plate.
Yeah, one thing I want to bring up in regards to this, and I've seen it around, I've seen people commenting, even reply to me about it, is, as far as I know, Spencer Jones has not worked with Teacher Man. He worked with Ben Rice. It wasn't with Spencer Jones. There was a story came out, I forgot what it was, but it was some podcast that tried to allude to it. made it seem as if Teacher Man did, and Teacher Man came out on Twitter, and he was pretty pissed off about it.
Right. Those guys just made an assumption that he was working with
Right.
Jones because he's similar in height to Judge. But I think Caleb Durbin was working with Teacher Man too.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of guys within the Yankee system that work with him, because I've heard his name mentioned a lot from a lot of the prospects.
He's a really interesting guy.
That he is. The last thing that I wanted to touch on is just these injuries and almost, I want to say delays when it comes to the Yankees taking action against them. I don't for the life of me understand why it is that they always side with the most optimistic approach, and then from what I've seen, it typically comes back to bite them in the ass.
Well, and that goes back to what I was talking about before, where, they're trying to throw through the bone spurs and, look the other way and hope it goes away kind of thing.
Yeah. Hope it goes away.
Yeah. And that's just, but there's so many, I understand you play hurt sometimes. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some times where I was hearing some buzz from some guys, kind of overhearing things I shouldn't have been hearing, of guys talking to, like in the dugout, hey, my whatever body part really hurts. They're making me play through it. What if there's a torn something or something along those lines? Jason, real quick, we won't know. Camp doesn't open to the public until March 3rd. So once that opens up, I'll be down there and I'll let you all know.
Yeah, man. The one that's the most concerning to me is the Giancarlo Stanton thing, because I feel like they're being way too hush hush about it, and that's always been a Yankee problem. I feel like they want to stay so hush hush especially with injuries, or they want to like delay and see if they can push it off as far as they can, and sometimes that works for them, but most times it doesn't, because the player still needs surgery at the end of the day. I just don't know what it really is, because you listen to Aaron Boone, it sounds like it's the end of the world, and you listen to Aaron Judge, and it's like, oh, he'll be okay. We're just waiting for a doctor to say what he has to say, and I mean, who's telling the truth there?
Isn't their position now? It's a personal thing. It's a personal issue.
Yeah.
So my take on that, just having worked with the organization, I mean, I have to be careful what I say because they still credential me, right? But at the same time, Boone is being told by the head of PR what to say, right? I mean, Boone, he's given guidelines, is the way that I would see it. I don't know that to be the truth, but that, from what I can tell of how they treat the answers that a lot of these people within the Yankees provide. So like as an example, I was part of the media clubhouse tour a week or 2 weeks or however long ago it was. I asked how much it was, just out of curiosity. I wasn't going to report anything. How much was it to build this? I know, but I can't tell you. Like, but why can't you tell me? I mean, if it's 20 million, it's 20 million. Just stuff like that. It's kind of infuriating in a way. I mean, it's a number. Who cares how much it was? I don't know.
Well, like when it comes to minor league injury, if you're a fan, you're not going to find out, right? I mean, unless you have inside information.
Exactly.
You don't ever hear reporting on what happens to their minor league players. If they go down, they disappear from the box score, and it's like, well, I hope I see them again, because otherwise you don't hear anything.
I mean,
at least it's not like hockey, though. It's not like upper body injury or lower body injury.
Yeah, but I'd rather that. At least we know something. I mean, listen, nobody, I can tell you right now, nobody has mentioned or said anything about, I mean, we broke two of them right now. I mean, Lalana and Maea. Nobody's talked about that. I literally watch people give Maea a 50 grade run on their scouting reports because that over an ankle injury. Like, nobody's talked about that kind of stuff. So we're out here trying to say, hey, this kid does not suck. He was injured, and the Yankees, I don't know why they wouldn't want that information out there, because then it could be like, yeah, he struggled because he was just injured. Okay, great. Now that makes sense if you want to still keep the value. No, we're going to keep it hush hush. We just want you to think he sucks. So now we're not going to be able to trade him for anything, and we'll just give him away for a bag of peanuts later. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me on certain things. Like, I mean, you could play the glass half empty or half full with that point of view, but to me, I mean, I think they always try to play the glass as half empty every time.
Which is interesting because I think I asked someone from Fangraphs somebody made a comment about the Yankees hyping their prospects. And I said, do they really do that? Because do you have to do that with all these publications doing it for them? And the person said they absolutely do. It's a real thing.
But they don't. But that's the
They
problem.
don't.
I'm saying, like, I don't see that.
No, they never do. But I will say that their international department is very good because they talk to some people that I talk to because they from what I was told is a lot of people felt like Ruben Castillo was the number one dude there. A lot of people do, and they had him ranked number one over Manny Cedeno. Now I'm not stupid enough to go in there and call Manny a utility player, and give him $2.5 million. That's Fangraph's opinion right there. But at the end of the day, they definitely do very well with international. I have to give them that. In terms of what they are, but the Yankees are never going to hype up any of those people. I know people that have gone to Hyatt people and basically said, I can't tell you anything, or I'm not going to tell you anything. So it doesn't matter. So it's not, they're not going to hype up any of these kids. And that's a reason that like a lot of the guys that the Yankees sign aren't in the top 3, 4, 1, 2, based on there, because nobody gets them out like that. They don't give away secrets of what they know about these kids. So I'm telling you from what I know that, you know, a kid might be ranked number 1 or 2 next year. Depending on who you ask, Wandy will be 1 or 2 next year. He'll probably end up, he might end up 2 or 3 on some prospect boards. But at the end of the day, he'll be there. But at the end of the day, listen, he's going to be 1 or 2. The Yankees are just not going to hype that up.
Yeah, and there's other organizations because I cover the Blue Jays and the Phillies in pieces, in addition to the Yankees. And I can tell you just from looking at certain top 30s and my eyes, there's some guys that are hyped up a lot more than what any other Yankee prospect in the top 30. The Blue Jays, as an example, they have an awful farm system, and they have there's a bunch of guys that they hype up that I'm looking at them like, what are you looking at? But at the same time,
they do a very good job of hyping up their guys, especially internationally when it comes time. Like they have the top 28 kid, Angel Montas. He's an corner outfielder, left-handed bat. They're signing him for $5 million. I mean, he's the number 1 kid at Ramos's academy right now. So I mean, they do a great job of actually speaking and talking about it, where the Yankees aren't going to go hype up their kids. Like, it's just a different animal.
Well, and like I'm looking at the top 30 on MLB Pipeline, they have Emmanuel Bonilla as an outfielder. I didn't find him to be anything special, but at the same time, I didn't find Jasson Dominguez to be special at the same level. So, you know, it really depends because some of these kids develop late, like we were talking about earlier, and you know, I guess we'll see what happens as far as hype goes with certain international kids. But I would say if there were any kind of hype, sometimes that might be on some of the American kids. Maybe that's a hot take.
Well, another stupid baseball rule of you get another draft pick if your player wins Rookie of the Year, as long as he's in a publication's top 100 and you don't try to circumvent the.
Well, no, he has to be a consensus
right.
top 100.
So Luis Hill wins Rookie of the Year, but you don't get anything because we don't have him in the prospect list here, and you're not trying to avoid his service time issue. I mean, that's such a stupid rule.
Don't get me started with MLB and stupid rules.
I was trying to explain the whole draft thing today to somebody, and they're looking at me like I'm an alien because it makes no sense.
No, explain to me how Soto's worth a 4th round pick.
Right. It's like someone put it on a. I think Joe Doyle said it. Anything the Yankees try to do has a punitive element to it. You want to pay players, you lose draft picks. You want to trade, you lose prospects. I mean, everything they do, they lose.
That's why the international market, they should really be killing it, man, because that's the one spot that they're not restrained in, you know, compared to everything else. And it's funny because I always get told, like, I've seen a bunch of people post, oh, you know, the Yankees only got the 10th best kid this year on MLB.com. Well, why are we only at the 10th best pick? And the Yankees guy turned around and told me, he said, well, if we could draft 10th every year in the draft, would you guys be happy with that?
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of people would say yes on that. So that's the way they look at it. They got the 10th best player in all of international. That's not bad.
How do they rank those guys when they're all? I mean, they're not playing against each other all the time, so it's not like you can see them all in one place. Yeah. So they can say this guy's ranked wherever, but we'll find out.
And like I was saying before, it's not organized baseball to our standards per se, right? So like it's not so many guys in the field. They're all doing their throw from shortstop or the drills that they do.
Yeah, and the bonus restrictions, man. Nick, you showed all those guys that the Yankees had lined up who they didn't end up with. That's tough to swallow.
I mean, a lot of them are still, like I said, they're not signed yet. They're still there. They're just not signed. I think we only lost 2 on the list that me and Carlos put out, if I'm not mistaken.
But guys like from last year, or like take a Basayo who's with the Orioles. He was going to be with the Yankees.
Oh, you talking about that list when I put that? Yeah. Listen, I'm pissed off. I mean, listen, we lost our second best 26 kid, Jasson Dominguez. Me and Carlos put it out the other day. We lost that, and that hurts. And will I take the trade of a Max Fried off for that? Yes, but I think that the whole concept of what went down and how it went down, and that the communication levels on certain things could have been better from the New York Yankees. That's what I'm gonna say. And that's what pisses me off on certain things. Like, yeah, we lost Davier De Los Santos. That one sucks. That kid on Minnesota is great. You lost Samuel Basallo. I understand. You had to deal with Hans Montero for years prior to. You got Basallo a little bit later. You had to honor the earlier commitment. I get that you lost it for Garrett Cole. I can't really be mad at that one. Does it hurt? Yes, but you still got Garrett Cole. The Rodon one for Davier De Los Santos and Leandy Mella and Steven Martinez and Abidel Feliz. You lose 4 players for Carlos Rodon, who's basically throwing batting practice right now. Yeah, that hurts. That hurts, especially when you lost a 2nd and a 5th round pick too.
Again, what other sport do you have to sacrifice that much to sign a player?
You're right.
Why you need to be punished to sign a player to try to win makes no sense to me.
But that's what you have to start. People have to start understanding, right? Is that, let's see, Kevin and Frank was a kid I was hyped for it. The guys thought, yeah, that one sucks. But me and Carlos know why that happened. I understand. That's something that I'm not going to blame the Yankees for. Because that one, I understand that situation. So, I'm not going to sit there. Does that suck? Yes, 100%. Would have been the best pitcher Yankees ever signed, 100% internationally. But we understand something that happened with that we just can't speak on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, when you lose players because you're signing everybody and everybody wants to sign 3 or 4 or 5 guys, I'll tell you right now, the Yankees feel as if their number 2 kid, who's a catcher, is Jose Colina. They feel he's a $2 million valuation that they got at a cheaper rate. They signed him last year. They linked him last year. We'll call it linked. So linked him last year for 26. I mean, so we can go through these lists of what they have, but losing Jasson Dominguez to me is a huge loss because he was projected to get $3.3 million. And the Yankees had been linked to this kid for 3 years. So when you lose a top 10 to 15 kid in the class, it's going to hurt, especially if Max Fried does not perform. So then you start looking at it and you're like, wow, every time Bobby Malone starts opening his mouth saying we need to sign Bregman and we need to sign this and we need to sign that, everybody needs to get crazy. Like I don't want to hear it anymore because you're the reason that we keep losing these players.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. And it's funny because I'll see a lot of those kids come up in the complex league, right? And I'm thinking to myself, all right, so who did we lose to sign or who did we? Let me try to rephrase this. What prospect would we have lost to sign XYZ player, and why did we get this guy instead? Because he's just standing there, the ball could clunk him in the head, and he wouldn't know the ball's coming. There's some of those prospects that are like that, and just like the Ben Schumer roster filler kind of guys.
I don't disagree, and I think if you look at it and you sign Bregman, people don't realize, but you're probably gonna walk away with another 7 or 8 kids that are gone, because that money now has dwindled down $2 million. You're gonna also lose your your 3rd and that other 4th that or 5th now, because we had that one for Soto that just got lost in this draft. So you're losing equivalent of 9 players. I've never seen the Yankees trade 9 players for 1 player. It just never has happened ever in the history of the day. So people are all on here and like, yeah, we got to do this. I'm telling you, how can this kid be any good, or what can we do with this? A lot of the stuff that a lot of people say on here, it blows my mind because they don't understand the concept of growing your team to become a dynasty, not growing your team to watch a first half of a season.
Bro, it sounds like we've been talking about all off season. The complaints with signing players with the qualifying offer attached and what the
Just Bobby
repercussions would be of
Malone.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I got nothing else, guys. If you guys want to bring up any other topics, let me know right now.
Yeah, I got one. All right, man. I just want to say it's been an honor doing this for a while. I'm going to be away for about 11 or 12 weeks before I jump back on here again, man. I'm going to the military. I know that we've kind of touched on it a little bit. So I'll be back in about 11 or 12 weeks. For that point, I'll be in Texas for a little bit for another couple of months, and then I'll be back. But I appreciate everybody. You guys have been amazing. Everything that you guys have done for us, and Carlos especially, man. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk baseball with all of you guys. Marcus, Brophy, same thing, man. So that's kind of what I want to leave it at, and keep following this channel, man. Carlos puts out the best content, and when I get my phone back, I look forward to seeing what you guys talk about as well.
And Nick, thanks for all that you do, and thank you for your service, and all the best to you and your family.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Nick,
Thank you for your service,
it's been an awesome ride, man. And I know we've spoken about this offline a few times. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you said you might be able to start coming back on June?
Well, I'll be back on the channel, probably around June. Probably early June.
Nick, you'll be back before Giancarlo Stanton will.
So I'll be rotating guys in and out. Marcus will be part of the show. Brophy will be. You'll see a lot of these guys a lot more often. You'll see other people as well. But yeah, man, Nick, it's definitely gonna miss you, and we'll definitely hopefully you're back on the channel soon.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Marcus, thanks for coming on. John,
Thanks
as
very
always.
much.
All right, guys. We're getting out of here. All right. Thanks for tuning in. As always, hit that like button on the way out, and appreciate all of you. Have a good night.
Thank you.